the anime that makes Starscream a tragic Autobot and Decepticon by Comodin Cam. So this was a Patreon recommendation. This was in response to seeing some of the PointlessHub Bayformer movies we reacted to. And some people have been kind of sharing bits and pieces about Transformers. I'm still not super knowledgeable about the setting, but I thought it'd be kind of interesting to go over, in addition to it being a Patreon recommendation. So let's dive into...
Like a rat. This amuses me. Sayonara, Autobot. You! How dare you!
Hot shot! Prepare to attack!
Beam Saber? So I'm assuming that it's kind of what TGS Anime does, where it's slowed down frames in order for some copyright stuff, right? Like, I'm assuming that's why it looks the way it does. I mean, honestly, it looks good. I'm a little... I mean, that's just a beam saber, right? Because Transformers came out after... What did original Mobile Suit Gundam, Kito Senshi Gundam, come out? That was like... circa 1950, because that's why you have Gundam having commentaries on World War II, Zeon being Axis, Federation more being along like the Allied powers, right? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out where I feel about legally distinct beam saber with mech, if I'm being honest.
When you look back at the history of Starscream throughout the entire Transformers franchise, Armada was really the first incarnation to take the character into a different direction, way beyond the typical backstabbing, egotistical maniac that we've all come to know and love. Armada Starscream would be the blueprint for the partial inspiration of other Starscreams to follow, such as Transformers Prime, at least in terms of writing. In no way are these two the same, they are written very differently.
I see this is a face. I see the Transformers Prime. It kind of reminds me of like the Sonic Boom era of stuff. I don't know. I just, it's weird because there's so many different art styles that this series has gone through. But I guess you can kind of argue the same thing about Gundam, right? Well, yes and no, because we had like SD, what was it, Gundam SD Warrior, SD Force, whatever, the chibis. But like, even if you're going into something like Build Fighters, right? I mean, it's still fairly consistent. Like, obviously, like if you go back to like Mobile Suit Gundam, or you go back to Mobile Suit Gundam Zeta or Double Zeta, right? And Mobile Fighter G Gundam, right? Like, I mean, it's very of the era, right? Animation wise, but it's very consistent. I think it's like, because as somebody who really doesn't have a dog in the race here, I'm taking a lot of this for really the first time. I know the dinosaur bot exists and he's pretty cool. I love him. He's adorable. But like the just vastly varying art styles are kind of throwing me for a loop.
The way they are explored are not that different either. What many people seem to overlook when it comes to the Transformers is how rich these characters really are, and when they are written properly, they can become something more than just a toy product. I believe out of all of the Transformers characters to exist, the most exciting to write about is probably Starscream. While Armada doesn't exceed on everything, it was the first to make its core characters more than just fighting robots. Beast Wars already exceeded on the writing capabilities of the Transformers, but now it's time to dive into the original Transformers. Much like how I explored the dark dilemma of Optimus Prime and Megatron, it's time to go deep on how this anime made Starscream a tragic hero.
I think it was a good intro. I'm going to be honest. Like, I mean, obviously we're like 4 minutes in, right? But like minute 43 intro to get across all of that, honestly, really good.
At the beginning of the series, we see Starscream as nothing more than a Decepticon soldier, trying his hardest to prove himself to Megatron.
And when Demolisher said that he was your right-hand man, I lost it, Megatron, because we all know that I'm next in line.
Enough of your petty bickering!
I was just...
Did I not make myself clear the first time?
Which for some
So
G1
happy.
fans at the time must have been very strange and odd to see, considering how in the first episode of G1, Starscream immediately makes it clear that he is the supreme leader. But this concept would not be the center focus of Armada. Why? Because that would be a character arc downgraded into just a single episode. Instead, we see a soldier over the course of the series developing and realizing that he is more of a leader than his boss, but never truly realizing it until midway through the series. Armada isn't G1, it's an anime, and animes are structured very differently.
Yeah.
This is an overarching story with each character having spotlight episodes with an arc over the course of a series.
So it's important as well to understand, I'm pretty sure this is the era where seasons were actually seasons, right? Like a full 26, right? Because let's be honest, right? This is actually where I've been one of the few dissenting voices. I need Sunrise to knock it off with the half season stuff. Because if, like, Code Geass Rose the Recapture, right? I mean, we did a giant reaction to, I think it was My Media Chops. It was an interesting one. I actually enjoyed Rose the Recapture as a Code Geass fan. I wasn't a fan of the 3D animated nightmares, if I'm being honest. The, like, oh, don't even get me started on that scissor stance. As somebody who sword fights, it hurts. But, like, Sunrise needs to knock it off with these half seasons because, like, Rose the Recapture was fine till about episode 9, and then we went from like 5 to 60, right? In terms of just like, you know, going 5 miles an hour to just step on the gas 60, right? Like it was starting to do things, it was going places, and then just like bam, and it's really constrained by this half season model. I'm assuming it's because it's cheaper to produce. I'm assuming because, you know, it's a lot less of an investment. I don't know much about Witch and Mercury. I think Witch and Mercury also had like these half seasons, right? Because that's what they were. I mean, watching anime in the mid 2000s, right? A full season was the 26. A half season was the 12/13, right? And obviously you had your big, like, you know, serialized series like Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball. Never really watched Dragon Ball. I'll probably start on GT just because I want to be contrary. I also like Broly. I don't know. It's important to understand that anime are structured a little differently, and I think that what I wanted to bring up before I got into that whole tangent about Sunrise, because I'm the only person who seems to have an issue with stories seeming like they just get like speed ran in a half season. I think it's really bad for the material. I would assume that these are full seasons, like full 26, right? So there's a lot more ability or a lot more chances and ability to have growth and stuff, right? Maybe? I don't know. I'd have to have somebody pitch in on that one.
When it comes to the Decepticons, Starscream is given the most attention, and for good reason. G1 gave the perfect foundation for the traitor concept to be more complex than just a one-noted trait. There's something to be said about how Starscream gets abused in this series too. It's not like any other series. It gradually gets worse over the show. There's one episode in particular that pushes this to a dark level, and actually makes you think, wait, this is a kid's show? But we'll get more into that later. Let's start at the beginning. Starscream starts out as a capable soldier, but when he fails multiple times, his comrades bully and humiliate him. As the Decepticons are small in numbers, it feels more personal as well. And this is stretched actually over the course of 3 episodes. It begins in episode 4 after being teased about not having his own minicon. His eagerness grows, but it interferes with Megatron's fight with Optimus, and we all know how no one interferes with that. After his fight, he is disciplined by Megatron, and thus begins Megatron's gradual frustration over Starscream. This would carry on into episode 5, where we see the Decepticons making remarks to Starscream, but he's still determined and confident that he will capture the next minicon. To the point where Starscream tries to be a one-man army and is quickly caught out by his comrades over this, and unfortunately he pays the price for it when he's defeated by the Autobots, in hilarious fashion.
What the hell?
In episode 6, the Decepticons are
This is all hand drawn, isn't it? Dude, I miss this. I miss stuff like this. Like, it just doesn't hit the same, right? I've kind of talked about it at length before, so I'm not really gonna dive super into it. But like, I can't do a lot of the generated stuff today, right? Like Code Geass, initial Code Geass, right? And the Nightmare frames. Everything was animated beautifully, in my opinion. You get to just, not even like Rose the Recapture nightmares, but just like modern anime just doesn't scratch that same itch, right? And I've often used when I've talked about this, look at Pokemon 2000 versus like, I don't know, some of the later Pokemon movies. Let's just use Manaphy Temple of the Sea. I enjoyed the movie, but it's like, it just doesn't it doesn't hit the same. I don't know how to really word it.
In a training simulation. And immediately we are shown how dysfunctional they are. But all of this is taken out on Starscream when he's the first to fail the simulation. And we actually hear in his voice how upset he is.
Megatron, please. I promise to do better if you let me have the next mini-con.
I think he's gonna start to cry.
Hey, you take that back.
Enough!
That right there makes us feel sympathy for him, despite the fact that he is a Decepticon. A part of us now slightly wants to see him succeed, unlike before. I think a big part of this is helped out with the voice acting. Despite the fact that Transformers Armada's writing is often a hit and miss, I can't deny that what Michael Dobson does with his Starscream is really well delivered. And I don't think this Starscream would exactly be the same without him. When the Minicon is found, Megatron wants to claim it for himself. And
I like that Megatron kind of has, like, you know, Pinsir from Pokemon, how it's based on the beetle? Kind of reminds me of that.
Starscream lashes out over this
horns.
after Megatron told Starscream that he could have the next Minicon. This is one of many Starscream's breaking points and actually starts to resemble more of his G1 counterpart. Despite us feeling relieved that Starscream has his own Minicon now, I can't help but hate how he destroyed the trees. Bad Starscream. At the end of the episode, we finally see a powerful Starscream, which, unfortunately, becomes an ego problem. But this also poses a concern to Megatron. See, unlike in G1, Megatron in Armada actually sees Starscream as a capable warrior, but he's quick to disregard him as well, telling the other Decepticons to sometimes forget about him in the battlefield and focus on their mission. Megatron is just a big hypocrite. He knows Starscream's one of his best soldiers, and further down the line we see Megatron discipline Starscream more purely for the fact that he wants him to lose his sense of honor. He wants him to be more ruthless, but he also wants to control him at the same time. In short, Megatron is a toxic boyfriend. I can't believe I just said that.
I mean, I like it. I like analogies like that, just because it's one of those things where you just go, huh? Yeah, I guess that's correct.
Think of it similar to Walt and Jesse in Breaking Bad.
Haven't seen it.
Megatron values Starscream and sees him as an ally, but if Starscream becomes too overpowered and too confident, then what's the point of Megatron? Typical alpha male behavior. Megatron realizing how weak he is if he doesn't have his Decepticon soldiers. And instead of using the power of friendship, like Optimus Prime, Megatron just disciplines them. And if we know anything about psychology, this discipline comes out of someone's own fear and insecurities. And believe me, there's plenty for Megatron to be insecure about. Starscream is way better looking. Over the next several episodes, the Decepticons would fail several times against the Autobots, with Starscream and other Decepticons paying the price for it. It wouldn't be until episode 14, however, that more to Starscream's story is added, when the Starsaber sword is completed and in the hands of the Autobots.
Okay, so episode 14. So this means this is a full season. Like, this is an actual bona fide season.
Decepticons grow more and more desperate for a win. This actually makes them slightly more concerned for each other, but we'll get back to that later. These failures is met to Starscream's frustration when he is defeated in the first act in episode 14 by Hotshot. Megatron summons Scavenger to help train the Decepticons in their fight against the Autobots, who actually at the time is an undercover Autobot. Starscream sees no need for Scavenger, but is met with a compliment by him when Scavenger goes for a fake hit, and Starscream doesn't even flinch, impressing Scavenger, calling him admirable for standing up to him, despite Starscream's arm being broken. Scavenger calls him more courageous than Megatron, and I just love this reaction. Just Megatron's petty jealousy there. Megatron tells the Decepticons that whoever takes the Starsaber from Hotshot is obviously worthy of holding it. This pushes Starscream to prove himself, and with the help of Sideways' betrayal, it finally falls into his hands. But Megatron falls back on his word quickly, but allows Starscream to keep it if he kills Hotshot. Of course he's spared by Scavenger, but in the next episode we see Megatron regretting his decision, when he sees Starscream's ego at full capacity. While Starscream is still loyal to Megatron, it's actually questioned in this episode, as his arrogance starts to grow, calling himself a more worthy leader than Megatron.
I can see that my power is starting to make Megatron nervous. He better watch his back. You know, it just might be time for a new leader for the Decepticons.
I mean, honestly, I like it. I mean, this is a whole character arc, right? Like, coming into this, and just like, yeah, no, I mean, you get to see these deep-rooted problems. You get to see how insecurities and opportunity ends up shaping characters, right? I mean, I know it's something that's like super, well, duh, that's how that works. But I mean, if the modern games industry is any indication of that, I mean, stories like this are more and more rare, especially when things just feel so, what's the word, clean, and like everything has its place and don't think about it too much. I don't know what the word I'm going for is, right? Like it feels sanitized, right? Where something like this is art. You get to see a whole character arc here. I don't know. I enjoy it.
This won't stand for Megatron, and sees an opportunity to guilt trip this situation before Starscream's arrogance grows too far. It's almost bizarre to see this mind game play out, as Megatron could have easily taken it from Starscream, but he doesn't want to risk a rebellion. He wants Starscream in line still as a warrior, and it's actually quite sad to see Starscream be downplayed like that. He felt finally worthy as a soldier despite his arrogance, but Megatron destroys it in one episode. I guess Decepticons are in the name, right? The fog in the episode causes Starscream to be confused on where he's attacking, with Megatron's minicon Leader 1 luring the attack closer to Demolisher. During Starscream's strike, Megatron intervenes and allows himself to get hit by the Starsaber, causing all the Decepticons to panic and worried over Megatron. Seriously, Megatron's acting is so bad here. He almost convinced people to ship him in Demolisher.
I'm fine. That is as long as I know that you are all right.
I love it.
I did it for you.
This almost feels like, it almost sounds like Optimus Prime from the Bayformer movies. I mean, I'm sure it's a similar filter, right? I don't know. It's so cool. Yeah, homogenized would be a word I would use.
Oh, Megatron, sir. Starscream, how could you?
Of course it's all an act, but it's actually strange to hear Megatron sounding concerned for his warriors, in a more caring manner. He almost sounds like Optimus. Starscream immediately feels guilty for hurting his leader, and gives the sword to Megatron. Poor guy. It gets even worse when in the episode Vacation we see Megatron actually taunting the Decepticons of how powerful he is now with the Starsaber.
Come back here, you coward!
As stated in the beginning of this video, the abuse Starscream faces in this series is what I would consider the darkest the Transformers cartoons have ever taken it, where it does make you think, Jesus, is this a kid's show? It's not until the episode Rebellion where we truly start to explore the dark dilemma of Megatron and Starscream's relationship. After the Decepticons are met with failure on the battlefield once again, Megatron takes it all out on Starscream. Despite the fact he had actually followed all of his orders correctly, Megatron starts to brutally attack Starscream, and it's not until Demolisher and Sideways blast down the door that it actually stops. Starscream takes all this in though because he is afraid of Megatron. It gets bad where even Demolisher tells Megatron to stop. What you've got to bear in mind though is that despite the fact that Decepticons taunt each other, they still see each other as comrades. Unlike other Transformers shows, the Decepticons in this series are not entirely cold-blooded. Yeah, they're still petty, vindictive, and cruel, but they're not cold-blooded. Yes, they're dysfunctional as hell, but they often show a sense of care for their comrades.
I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I just haven't ingratiated myself enough with Transformers lore. I mean, it's something that's like, I don't know, like, it exists. I can respect it, right? I can understand why people like it. Is it something that I want to like dive super into? Probably not. And that's not like a slight at the series. It's just, I don't know how to word it right. Like, you know when there's that anime that everyone really likes, but then it's like you don't want to watch it just because it's not because you don't like it. It's not that, it's just like it's fine, right? I get that's kind of where I'm at, right? It's not apathy. It's just like I see why people like it, and I respect that people like it. I don't know if it's necessarily something I'd sink a mass amount of time into, if that makes sense. Which is fine. I don't know. It's an interesting one to try to work through. Yeah, thanks for the almost 3 years. Thanks for the resub. Wow.
You saved me!
Don't flatter yourself. But when he attacked you, Starscream, he crossed the line.
I love Demolisher. He's just one of my favorites.
What a cool dude.
It's because they have a sense of pride and a conscience, and that's exactly what Megatron wants to eradicate from Starscream. That sense of honor that he had, because Megatron just wants to win. He's desperate, and for that, he'll take it out on his own men. It's twisted of how Megatron beats down Starscream, but it also comes from out of respect. This is nothing like we've ever seen before. What you gotta bear in mind is what Megatron is doing to Starscream is testing him. Megatron is trying to channel Starscream's determination. He wants to know what drives him. He knows Starscream wants to defeat him, but he's trying to tell him that he's fighting too much like a warrior. He's using his pride to cloud his judgment. If he were to fight like Megatron, then he would be able to attain victory. Megatron wants soldiers. It's a very twisted way of going about it, but this just proves how hypocritical and also dangerous Megatron is.
So that was right. I actually remember what I was going to say. I don't really know a whole lot about Decepticons versus Autobots. I know at least from the Bayformer films, they're just two warring factions. But like in terms of like what drives one faction versus the other, what designates an Autobot versus a Decepticon versus whatever was in one of the Bayformer movies, where like they were kind of an independent party. It's because it sounds like independent parties exist potentially. I'm not really aware of that specifically. So I definitely am lacking context. But that being said, that's not the video's problem. That's very much I just don't have a reference point. The video is explaining things for people who have clearly intaken the media and is extrapolating on things very well enough to the point where someone like me can follow along, right?
This was the first cartoon to ever properly address this in any sort of way. It becomes psychological abuse. Starscream would act very differently after this episode, and it's exactly what Megatron wanted. Sideways tries his hardest to manipulate the situation. At the time, he is obviously a subordinate of Unicron. He wants to fuel Starscream's anger to kill Megatron, or either one of them. He'd be happy for Sideways. But it doesn't work, because Megatron never had any intention on using the Starsaber to kill Starscream, or in general. He just wanted to teach him a lesson. But Starscream's unwilling to beg for his life. Starscream merely urged Megatron to finish him. Megatron spared him with the observation that he is actually a good soldier, who might someday in the future have the strength to actually best him. I remember as a kid really wanting Starscream to win. I hated Megatron for his tactics, and it would teach me actually a thing or two about dealing with bullies at school. Yes, I actually bought the Starsaber sword and started lashing out at all the bullies at school. I was actually quite the hero.
Amazing.
But anyway, in the end of the episode, it actually made them fight as one unit again. But of course, this wouldn't last. Because, well, the next few episodes later, what do the Decepticons do? They abandon him during a battle. What a bunch of arseholes. In the episode Sacrifice, we have a new Decepticon called Thrust, and him and Megatron plot a plan to get back the Requiem Blaster from the Autobots. And basically, they send Starscream on a suicide mission. Megatron gives Starscream the Starsaber to lure the Autobots out of hiding, but uses Starscream's confidence to his advantage when he discovers that the Autobots aren't using the Requiem Blaster in this battle. As they're distracted, he decides to invade the Autobot base. The Autobots tell Starscream that he's been abandoned, but he isn't buying it, and calls out for their help. Of course, no answer.
Cyclonus! Megatron! Demolisher! Anybody!
That's really good voice acting, actually.
Why have you all abandoned me?
And now Starscream even has the Autobots mocking him.
Yeah, this actually kind of reminds me of the Shinkido from Code Geass, or probably God, what's his name? Is it Alial Sanchez? Who's the mercenary from Gundam 00 who pilots the throne unit? I think it's Alial Sanchez. I can't remember offhand. The mercenary, the one who used Setsuna as a child soldier. That guy. I mean, it's a competent design. I love it.
Jeez, this guy can't take a break. The Autobots teleport home after learning that their base has been invaded, leaving Starscream to cry in the rain.
Why have you abandoned me, Megatron? Why?
And I think this is a really heartbreaking scene. I mean, the rain can be seen as a reflection of how Starscream is actually feeling. We don't see the tears in Starscream's eyes, because we don't need to, because the rain is a perfect symbolism of that. This would be one of the major turning points in Starscream's character, because he believed he was fighting as one unit, but instead just became a mere sacrifice in Megatron's grand scheme to take the Requiem Blaster.
I mean, honestly, you could also, I guess, posit that, and we were getting super, like, why are the curtains blue in the art piece, right? Like, the depressive attitude, the depressive move, the oppressive darkness, right? Sense of isolation, right? From the clearing, from the rain, the dark clouds above, obviously rain clouds to get rain, right? So Alpha using him. I don't know. I mean, you could draw, that's why I like anime. You can draw multiple theoretical, like, things from this. And sometimes I would say it's like what Occam's razor. Sometimes the simplest solution is generally the solution, I think, right? I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember a lot. It's 1,800 reaction videos and stuff, honestly, just starts to blur. My brain just is not the same as it used to be. That's why I'm trying to back off a little bit and see if I can't focus on growing with less videos. But, like, I don't know. I mean, there's a couple conclusions we could draw from this.
When Starscream comes back to the Decepticon base, we actually have a dark entrance of Starscream, which is a scene that's always stuck in my head. The music just fits so well here.
the pan.
Well, Starscream, you're still alive.
And it's interesting to see how Megatron is actually surprised he survived. Starscream takes out Thrust immediately, and Megatron actually allows this to happen until he tells him that's enough. And when Starscream goes to heal himself, we actually see Starscream first show signs of his care for the Minicons.
This energy bath will fix you up.
the funny noises.
Isn't that better?
We got Runaway, Jetstorm, and Sonar that form a Star Saber sword. Up to this point, the Decepticons have just used the Minicons as mere pawns in their battle against the Autobots. But Starscream, not quite like the Decepticons.
Interesting.
It's very rare we see the Decepticons actually care for the Minicons. We have Demolisher with Blackout at the end of the series, and then Megatron occasionally with Leader 1. Starscream treats them different though from the rest of them. And unlike other Minicons we see with the Decepticons, these actually form an attachment with him. See, we've got to think of the Minicons as sort of like children. When they are obtained, they form a sort of attachment to their owner. I mean, it's not hard to get an attachment to Starscream when the rest of the Decepticons kind of treat him like crap. But we'll get more into the relationship that Starscream has with the Minicons a bit later on. In the episode, Starscream overhears both Megatron and Thrust gloat about their successful mission and using Starscream as bait. And honestly, they should take a cue from Soundwave. They keep speaking aloud. Immediately hearing this, Starscream lashes out in anger. And honestly, this was the point in the series I was so happy about. Finally, Starscream no longer tolerates the abuse he's been facing with Megatron. When he gets to Earth, he's in heavy pursuit by Tidal Wave, and we see the Autobots intervene with the fight, and it's actually kind of nice to see Starscream kind of sort of protecting the Autobots, sort of just telling them to butt out and mind their own business to not get caught in the crossfire. And seeing Starscream give Optimus Prime the Star Saber sword to defend himself from Tidal Wave was honestly just a relief moment, like, okay, cool. This is when Armada got more interesting for me. Just seeing the Decepticon kind of fold into the Autobots, it's just an interesting concept for me, and I can't think of any other better character to do it than Starscream. You know, the character that's always getting treated badly by Megatron. G1, I can't really imagine it because Starscream just kind of had his own egotistical mindset on all the time. But Starscream's Armada, very different. He has his own goals of wanting to be a leader, but it's not that straightforward, and it's not actually that kind of glorious as G1 Starscream. He wants to be leader, but he wants to earn it, not take it. But when he's actually in the Autobots base, we see the Autobots of course being hesitant about it, and Starscream hesitant about it as well. He's just kind of there to just want to destroy Megatron, and this would be a theme of his entire time during the Autobot base. And honestly, I kind of wanted more episodes of Starscream with the Autobots. I just wished there was more time to just flesh out that kind of plot. They do kind of rush it a little bit, and that's one of the sad facts about Armada, is that they do often rush a lot of good elements introduced into the show. I mean, Starscream is introduced to the humans, and not all of them are on board of it at first. Except for Alexis. And Alexis is actually one of the key human characters in the Transformers Armada show that I really grew to like, especially during the Starscream arc, because Alexis is sort of us. In a way, because we've been seeing Starscream's torment and pain throughout the series up to this point. Alexis is similar to Optimus Prime in many ways, like she's not so hesitant to judge someone based on their past, she's willing to give him an opportunity, and I think dynamic wise she works with him a lot better. It's a slow start, and Starscream doesn't really take all of the kind of pleasantries the humans are giving him, and it gets even sweet to the point where even the Minicons don't want him to leave, they want him to join the Autobot side. It's adorable. I mean, look at the guys, they're so cute.
They're pretty cool.
See him as his daddy.
I'm actually a little surprised that we didn't see anything like this in the Bayformers films. I guess you could argue, right, the tinier ones, right? That was the second movie, right? I mean, like Chat said earlier, it seems like the Bayformer movies are kind of just like their own thing. Like it's kind of just like its own insular microcosm, right? Especially with just how odd it gets as the story progresses, right? But I mean, you look at it and it's like, that's perfect for merch, right? Is it not? Like, is that not perfect for merch just to have tinier minicons, right? I don't know. Like, it's interesting to think about.
And it's the Minicon's behavior towards Starscream is what pushes Alexis to trust him more, because why else would the Minicons act that way? We don't see Leader 1 kind of rubbing Megatron's leg. Actually, I don't want to see that. The bond that Starscream shares with the Minicons further shows Optimus Prime that Starscream might actually be willing to change and might actually have true intentions of wanting to defeat Megatron. Of course, not all the other bots are on board with this, especially Hotshot, but it's kind of resolved at the end of the episode when they go head to head with each other and we have a repaired smokescreen / hoist. As mentioned in the previous episode, Smokescreen was actually injured by Megatron during the attack in the Autobot base, and it seemed like he wasn't going to survive that considering he's been on life support up to this point. In the next episode, we have Starscream lead the Autobots to the Decepticon base in order to rescue the Minicons, and honestly, this is one of my favourite episodes.
I hope you don't mind. I brought along my new friends.
Nice.
You can't be serious!
Seeing Starscream fight alongside the Autobots was honestly just a sight to see, despite the fact that it's not quite as what Optimus Prime imagined, because of course Starscream's egotistical mind wants to destroy Megatron at any cost, which unfortunately gets in the way of their main objective. But it's slightly resolved at the end of the episode when Starscream's actually fighting alongside Hotshot against Megatron, and honestly, the dynamic here between Hotshot and Starscream from the previous episode is fantastic, them working as a unit. But the episode ends on somewhat a sour note. Despite their teamwork, Starscream is still determined to take on Megatron. Starscream orders the Autobots to return to base after their mission is complete, but Starscream, still holding a grudge against Megatron, wants to finish the fight once and for all. But when Optimus Prime orders Starscream to stand down, he struggles with that. And while Starscream does return to base, he is given an ultimatum on whether he will either join the sides of the Autobots or return back to his roots as a Decepticon. And in the following episode, we really see Starscream more confused than ever, debating on what he really wants. Does he want to achieve his goal of destroying Megatron, or does he want to be part of the Autobots? Alexis, once again, is the one who comforts Starscream during these stressful times, but he doesn't allow himself to show his true feelings, because, well, he wasn't programmed to do so. It isn't until the Mars mission, where he accompanies Jetfire in hoping to rescue a Minicon, that his softer side starts to grow.
I mean, it's good to see this like inner conflict. I feel like a lot of modern media is sterile, and I don't know. It's hard to say that, right? Because as much as we could say, modern media, a lot of it being super sterile and super, homogenized, right? A lot of modern media ends up being trauma stories, and like there's nothing wrong with it, a trauma story like this. You could argue is a trauma story, very much so, right? But I think the delivery matters, right? Like you can have a character who goes through a really just absolutely foobarred past, right? And they end up growing from it, and it ends up shaping them as a character, right? Stale, I think stale is a good word for it. I mean, some is homogenized, some is definitely a little curated and a little clean, right? But I think stale. I think it's just too formulaic and paint by numbers, right? Like, think about bringing back to Lord of the Rings, right? And I'll keep it short, I promise, right? Where Aragorn has a pretty hard past, right, for all intents and purposes, right? Especially because he's effectively being hunted by Sauron his entire life, right? But like him versus Thor, and let's use the movie one specifically, right? Thor and Oakenshield, definitely tragic past. What does he end up doing? He just kind of ends up being a dick the whole trilogy, right? Versus Aragorn, who very much embodies, like positive masculinity and stuff. He's, strong when he needs to be. He's soft when he needs to be, right? I don't know. I think the delivery very much matters, right? Like, I love that. I like seeing good characterization. And part of that is probably just watch new series, Fivehead. It's hard to get excited for anime anymore. I'm very picky on what I watch, if I'm being honest, right? Like, haven't seen Demon Slayer, haven't seen Jujutsu Kaisen, haven't seen the new Pokemon anime. I know that there's just a lot of like vending machine isekai, and that's really all I know. Frieren exists, I guess. People had mixed receptions on Dragon Ball Super. I don't know. It's like, I'm very picky on my anime, and a series has to sell itself to me. Like, I don't watch it just because it's anime, right? Like, yeah, there was a period of time where I watched anime just because it was anime, right? And so I ended up watching Two Lover, and you're like, man, that was certainly an anime. Like, I don't know. Just because it has keyword anime doesn't necessarily mean it sells itself to me. Like, it has to prove itself worth my time, if that makes sense.
First, his arrogance to take on Megatron clouds his judgment, however, and during a squabble with Tidal Wave leads him to be stranded on Mars. And he's all alone. He even lashes out at his Minicons that leave him too.
I don't need your sympathy. Now leave me alone.
The beeps.
Even the Minicons have abandoned me now.
And honestly,
Amazing.
I can't help feel sorry for him, but also annoyed at the same time. At least
So the storm is also him being in a very tumultuous place, right? In a very, very dark headset, very chaotic, right?
one good thing came out of Starscream's rant. When he crushes the rock, he discovers something quite beautiful, something that even he's surprised about. And he thinks about the kids in this moment, as obviously they requested a souvenir. And something happened in his programming that changed, that made him think about the kids. That seems to leave him confused. Alas, Jetfire finds Starscream, but he's so wrapped up in his self-pity, he refuses to follow direct orders. So, Jetfire literally handcuffs him. Bad Starscream. On their way back to Earth, the pair actually discover the minicon hidden in the asteroid, but they are attacked by Tidal Wave once again. Before Tidal Wave is about to grab hold of the minicon, Starscream does something here that even shocks Jetfire. He speaks with real passion for the Autobot cause, telling the minicon to defend himself against Tidal Wave.
We Autobots will protect you! The Decepticons will use you as a tool for war! Trust me!
Talking Starscream, that's the way.
Don't become a Decepticon! Save yourself! Shoot him down! Fire! Fire!
Amazing.
This speech alone to the minicon speaks volumes of how much Starscream has changed, especially how he feels to the Decepticon cause. When Starscream returns back to Earth, Alexis thanks Starscream for his efforts in helping out with the minicon, and she tells him that the Autobots cause is the right fit for him. And while he brushes this off, she actually discovers that he brought back a rock from Mars as a souvenir for her and the other kids. Starscream doesn't need to say anything to show that he cares in this scene. All he needs to do is leave the souvenir, and that is enough to convince Alexis that he does have a heart, or spark. Starscream finds it very difficult to share his emotions. Like mentioned before, he wasn't programmed to do so. So this is the best the kids are going to get. If they changed Starscream's personality so drastically and being kind of warm and fuzzy with the kids, it wouldn't have suited right at all. Starscream's not that kind of character to switch like that. He has to stay how he is because of what he's experienced.
So I like what chat says also, show not tell. And I think that there's only so many things like that you can do via an exposition dump. Like, don't get me wrong, sometimes you need an exposition dump, right? Like, harkening back to Code Geass, right? You have R2 episode, I think it's 21, right? Lelouch and Charles are caught in C's world, right? And then Charles ends up doing, the whole no, you're wrong. His whole speech on the Sword of Akasha, how lies have no meaning in the endless eternity, right? Like, it's an exposition dump, right? But it's made to move the plot along because then Marion shows up, right? Something as well, like Ruby, right? Going into volume 6, right? They rub the funny lamp. Jin, what has Oz been hiding from us, right? And then it's like, okay, because you have so many conflicting accounts. Yeah, let's be real. The Jin flashback is kind of an exposition dump, right? But I mean, yeah, it's done in the show not tell kind of way. Don't get me wrong, right? But like, especially if it's like, hey, we need to kind of like clarify some stuff. Like, an exposition dump isn't awful. You just have to be careful with how you use it, right? Because if everything turns into, yes, you see, back in my day with Diablo and the Butcher and Tristram, like bro, you're gonna tune out in like 5 minutes, right? Which is why I actually really like long videos, like Patrician TV's like Morrowind and Skyrim, Morrowind and Oblivion videos. I haven't finished his Skyrim trilogy yet. I need to at some point. But like, I mean, I'll watch long videos. I'll watch long form stuff. It depends on how it's delivered and how it's structured, right? What is the point of the exposition? If the point of the exposition is cool, we move the plot along, and this is what you need to know, sure, it can kind of stale. But if it's like, it's to move the plot along, but it's done so in a way that you have a reliable narrator being able to give you the full information, i.e., Jin with Ozpin, right? Like, or it's meant to like clarify something, a la Charles and the Sword of Akasha. I don't know. Like, I feel there are people with actual writing degrees and stuff who are going to be able to word this a lot better than I can. It depends how it's done, right? You can absolutely exposition dump. You just have to be careful how you do it.
For a character like Starscream to open up, it has to be a very slow process, and that to me is what makes a character more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Transformers.
What an iconic
the next episode is perhaps the hardest to stomach, because you want to scream at everybody in this episode. Starscream, the Autobots, that squid head. Starscream's faced with two sides in this episode. Pursue his revenge on Megatron, or become an Autobot. Despite Starscream slowly working with the Autobots and showing a care for the humans, his one true goal is of course destroying Megatron. While this episode isn't expertly written, it does give us one of the most iconic pieces in Transformers lore. The chamois.
So, what is it?
Amazing.
Basically just a handmade chamois to polish your minicons. It's actually kind of a clever gift. So please be grateful, Starscream, even if you're confused by it. And I find it very touching of Starscream's difficulty of saying thank you, because, well, of course he's not programmed to say anything like that. Decepticons don't receive gifts. Maybe if they did, there'd be no war. And on a personal level, I actually get Starscream's feeling. I don't really handle gifts or compliments really well at all.
I really don't. This was actually something that happened in my personal life fairly recently, where, I don't know, I always have an aversion to gifts. It took a while for me to, like, because I have people send me like drones and stuff on Warframe constantly, which is super funny and I love it. I don't accept gifts very well from a personal standpoint. So especially in my personal life, where something happens and it's like, yeah, I don't want the drama that comes along with gifts. I don't want to feel like it is going to be just a debt or it's held over my head, right? Which, yeah, you could argue like it's not what do you call it? It's been a work in progress. I'm trying to figure out how to word it, right? Because on one hand, you have to show that gratitude and you have to acknowledge and you have to understand. And like chat clearly in chat gets it, right? Swords and Master in chat, you don't say JK, right? Like, yeah, it's one of those, even for Patreon and stuff, where it's like, I feel like I get frustrated a lot. I feel like I'm not super positive. I feel like I'm not super transformative, right? I feel like, even when I react to something like this, which, I mean, the core video is really good. I like the arguments presented. It's very well structured, right? It's a little long-winded for people, right? And thus, that's where my retention metrics go to crap. But that's more on me reacting and trying to add more than anything else. I don't know. That's been one I personally struggle with. So I can relate on that one. I don't do the gift thing very well, but that's also because I've known some pretty awful and narcissistic people in my life. So I try not to feel like I owe people something, right? When I get to feel indebted to the person, I have to get something back. Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of what you feel is social etiquette, despite that not being social etiquette, right? It can be confusing for people to accept gifts. And it's why I take it really seriously, right? And why it's like, I try to keep myself grounded, right? I make as much content as freely available as I can. I don't ever require anyone to gift subs, do anything like that, right? I don't know, just one of those things that I have kind of a vested interest in. So I like that he brings this, but I also like that the series touches on this too, because it can be a very personal thing for a lot of people. And I don't know, one of the big ones I also struggle with, and I think this is, I think most people could agree with it, right? If people ask you to give them a gift, that's the one I struggle with a lot, because I usually turn that down, even if it's meant to kind of open up something or like open up a dialogue there. I can't do it. That's one of those bridges where if I enjoy your presence enough, or I think you'll enjoy something, yeah, I'll gift you something. Like I gave like everyone on our mod team, if I remember correctly, I got them something for Funny Holiday this past December, right? But like, to me, asking for it is a little bit of an overreach. This is getting a little too deep into the weeds. We'll circle back to Transformers. I mean, it also showcases, recovering from trauma and healing, right? Where Megatron was literally abusive to Starscream, right? It's not a fun place to be in, right? So being in this situation and then being able to have people care enough about you to give you a gift can be very confusing for people, especially coming out of bad situations.
And honestly, it's just a touching scene, something you never thought you'd see from Transformers. And honestly, I couldn't be more mad at Jetfire from stopping Starscream from telling the kids the rest of the Mars story, because who knows, maybe if Starscream had more interactions with the Autobots and the humans in a friendly manner, it could have stopped what happened with Thrust. Oh yeah, so Thrust decides to join Sideways and Unicron, and tries to manipulate Starscream into joining him. Thrust offers Starscream a deal: if he joins the Decepticons' ranks with the Skyboom shield and the Starsaber, him and Thrust will plot against Megatron in good time. Of course, Thrust at this point is just manipulating Starscream, and at first he actually doesn't buy it. But unfortunately, his conversation with Thrust is overheard by Billy and Fred. Seriously, they just stood out there in the open? Robots in disguise, my ass. Coincidentally, at the same time, the Skyboom shield is actually missing, but they're just going on a walk. As Starscream returns, the Autobots are immediately skeptical of him, questioning what really happened with Thrust, as they've become aware that the Skyboom shield has gone missing. Don't get me wrong, I understand why the Autobots would be skeptical of Starscream, but I can't help at the same time as a viewer be frustrated that if it was just a little softer and didn't jump the gun on him, assuming he was a traitor, it could have probably changed everything. But honestly, if their behaviour did change, I don't think in the end it would have mattered anyway, because while Starscream is programmed as a Decepticon, but he'll do whatever's necessary to take down Megatron. And during the Autobots' battle with the Decepticons, we see Starscream actually bring out the chamois, declaring to Thrust that he's actually not going to join his side at all, which is like, oh yay, good. But then he joins Thrust. It's like, oh no, bad. Thrust's words manage to get inside Starscream's head, and takes the Skyboom shield from Optimus Prime's hands and returns back to the Decepticon base. And seeing Alexis and the other kids heartbroken is actually a reflection on us, the viewer. Seeing that blanket, or chamois, or whatever it was, flying in the air was crushing. Like, damn, he could have at least taken that with him. I mean, sure, the Decepticons would have found it a bit suspicious why Starscream has this blanket thing. But heck, Starscream could have used it to polish Megatron to win back his trust a little bit faster.
I mean, this is also one of those things as well, where, especially when gifts are considered, where as far as gifts are considered, giving gifts back is kind of a very big social taboo, right? Definitely not something that you do. That is very much one of those where, like, because if somebody gives you a thing, especially if it's in good faith and not held over your head, right, and you opt to give it back, that is a commentary on what you think of them in really several ways, right? It really is a big slap to the face, because somebody, you know, thinking about you, wanting to give you something, whether that's their time, something physical, etc., and just absolutely just discarding it. Well, I mean, that's discarding, but like giving it back specifically, very much seen as a dick move, if you will. And then discarding it, I mean, it depends, especially if there's a falling out, right?
Starscream returns to the base, and Megatron is actually impressed of his accomplishments. Gee, Megatron sure does forgive easy. I mean, I guess you just have to give him the most powerful weapons in the universe. Over the next few episodes, we'd see Starscream slightly being manipulated by Thrust. Honestly, I don't know how anyone can take a word this guy is saying. He is such an absolute nut. I consider Starscream the most intelligent of the bunch, but in some circumstances, he's a dumb boy. Starscream would be faced with a bigger challenge when Megatron orders him to fire the Hydra Cannon at planet Earth. Of course, Starscream doesn't want to do that, and he's holding back actually from doing that. Megatron is reluctant on making Starscream be the one to fire the cannon. Of course, he's just doing this to test him, to prove his loyalty, and you can really feel the restraint Starscream is holding. And he has inner monologues through some of these episodes just how he can't do it.
Why does he have to destroy the whole planet? I can't let this happen. There are too many innocent people down there. My friends are down there. But if I refuse, Megatron will surely cut me down. I don't have much time. What should I do? What should I do?
Luckily for him though, Optimus Prime is here to save the day. The Autobots have a few interactions with Starscream whenever they come across him in some fighting sequences, but usually they're just scuffs and remarks of him being a traitor. Poor Starscream. We can tell in the episode Crisis, Starscream's having a lot of difficulty being with the Decepticons and doing his tasks. And Starscream purposely allows Jetfire to hurl him into Tidal Wave, allowing Prime to remain unhurt. Of course, as we know, Starscream's efforts did save Earth, but Optimus Prime made the ultimate sacrifice. As the Decepticons return to Cybertron, Starscream is kind of in shock that they are actually there, and doesn't seem to find any personal enjoyment in the battles. As Thrust becomes slightly more insane over the course of the Unicron battles, Starscream becomes more aware of his treachery and tricks. It isn't long until Thrust is called out by Starscream and the rest of the Decepticons. And this is where we start to see Starscream burying his grudge against Megatron when faced with a bigger threat. Because he's no longer thinking about himself, he's thinking about his friends, Alexis, and the Autobots. Now this is the part where it gets a little more interesting. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Starscream had a colour change in the Unicron battles. This was the Minicons healing him, and, well, he says it himself.
It looked like Thundercracker.
I was curious about this. I'm glad that he pointed out the color change. I was a little curious for that about
And honestly, I like it. I used to not like it, mostly because I had a grudge with the toy. Because I always wanted the red and white, but my parents for Christmas instead got me the blue. And I remember at Christmas crying so much as a kid, being so upset and distraught, because I wanted my red and white Starscream.
Why?
I'm still holding a grudge to my parents to this day, don't worry guys, one day I will own that toy. Despite the fact that it's just a gimmick to sell a toy, I think this colour change actually reflects in Starscream's personality, just to kind of show how much he's actually changed. And it's actually a good contrast to the original Generation 1 Thundercracker personality, where Thundercracker, out of all the Seekers, was the one who was really not sure about the Decepticon cause, and we can see that placed in Armada Starscream here. Whether or not that was intentional, I don't know. I guess they might just say that, just to make him feel clever. In the episode Portent and Drift, Starscream confronts Thrust, but is shocked to find that the kids are actually with him too. Thrust fires a shot at the Wrecking Blaster, and at first kills Starscream, but then the Minicons rewind time, and he's back. Yeah, the Minicons—
I'm sorry, they can what? What do you mean they could just rewind time? What? That's a little bit of a big ability to have. That's not nothing. What?
Starscream. But then the Minicons rewind time, and he's back. Yeah, the Minicons actually rewinded time. How powerful are these little shits? I mean, seriously. Rubble from the blast starts to cave in, and Starscream shields the humans, and has a quick smiley with Alexis, then charges off to find Thrust.
I'm sorry, we can't. There's no way. There's got to be more context, right? There has to be more context in the series. There's no way that we have Deus Ex Machina, time rewind. That just is glossed over. I would posit. I would go so far as to say that is lazy and/or bad writing. I mean, one of my favorite games is Majora's Mask. Don't get me wrong. Time travel has to be done right. Like, I definitely had issues when Avengers Endgame. I mean, I hadn't seen all of the MCU, to be fair, right? And I honestly haven't really seen anything after Endgame, if I'm being honest. Just not something that's just in my interest, if that makes sense. Like, cool, by the way, we can just go back in time now by shrinking down to the quantum realm. Like, okay, what? We can do this now? What? Like, I'm cool with time travel, but, like, the rules have to be defined, and it can't be used as Deus Ex Machina, right? That is wild to me.
As he travels through the warp gate, he also finds Sideways as well, who tries to convince Starscream to join the team, but Starscream ain't having it. Instead, he's faced with a bunch of spider bots. He's later reunited with Alexis, and this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted more of. More of Alexis and Starscream. I love the dynamic between a human and a Transformer, especially a Decepticon. This works on so many levels. I just love Starscream's utter confusement when Alexis is just trying to explain to him why she considers him a friend.
Why are you still waiting around for me?
Because you're my friend.
I'm your friend?
Yeah, that's right. You're my friend.
Oh my god, we really do have 10 voice actors. I'm curious who you VA'd her and what else she did.
That means we have to help each other.
Help each other?
Come on, let's go.
The moped. Yeah.
Honestly, I just love an anime movie of these two, just exploring their dynamic between human and robot. During the episode, actually, as Starscream and Alexis are trying to get away from Unicron's minions, accidentally loses her Lucky Charm. Now, Alexis made the pendant from the Mars rock that Starscream gave her, but in the English dub, it's just kind of rubbed off as being a rock from Cybertron. Yeah, this isn't the case. It is the Mars rock. For some reason, the English dub just completely forgot to write that in, but this would be corrected in the Legends of Micron. Legends of Micron once again fixing loads of errors of the English dub. As they break out, Starscream was once again offered the opportunity to join the Autobot cause, but Starscream doesn't want to risk betraying him a second time. Which honestly, I can understand why Starscream did this. With the experience he just shared with Alexis, he definitely doesn't want to risk hurting her again. And instead he sticks to his own methods on how to convince Galvatron to join the Autobots, now realising that Unicron is a much more bigger threat than his personal grudge against him. Showing how much Starscream has really aged and changed. And a huge part of this is mostly thanks to Alexis, as she showed him kindness and respect, something that he always wanted from Megatron, or more like grew to want. In the next episode, and which would be the final episode of Starscream, Cramp, seriously guys, you couldn't think of a better name, right? We see him actually playing with Galvatron to join forces with the Autobots. Of course Galvatron, he ain't having any of it. Now just for the sake
Galvatron, as if I understand it correctly, being a, excuse me, I have a new shift around, being a power crept version of Megatron. I don't know how the Digimon evolution lines go for this, if I'm being honest.
I'm going to continuously call him Megatron, because have you noticed how many times I've slipped in and out between the two?
Yeah.
In Armada, it's pretty dumb. Starscream tries his best to reason with Megatron and the other Decepticons, but I think it's just finally synced into Starscream's brain. These guys are idiots. And he has to do something really drastic to make Megatron realize that Unicron is a real threat. In the episode, Megatron challenges Optimus Prime to one last duel that would...
Wait, okay, so Optimus Prime came back. I don't know. To be fair, Optimus Prime making the ultimate sacrifice and then coming back. I mean, when we just have mini bots that could just rewind time, I mean, sky's the limit. Like, yeah, I still can't get over that one.
Settle all accounts between them. But Starscream intervenes, and we get into a scene now that would literally staple the minds of many Transformers fans, that I believe is so memorable that won't be topped by any other Transformers fiction.
Starscream! The game's over, Galvatron!
Fair enough.
I hope you realize you're playing a very dangerous game, Starscream.
I've made my choice, Galvatron. There's only one path to survive Unicron, and that's to follow Optimus.
And in this episode, we see how far Starscream has come as a warrior. Everything Starscream has learned and been taught by Megatron is shown in this fight. And honestly, it feels like Megatron really doesn't want to fight Starscream either. He'll do it, but Megatron actually gives Starscream plenty of chances to bow out. Honestly, I see Megatron to Starscream in this series as like a really bad father. He cares for him in certain ways. As stated in my Optimus Prime and Megatron video, he is a general in this series, so he doesn't treat his soldiers in any kind manners. He gives them respect every so often. But when it comes to his soldiers, he expects results, and if he doesn't get his results, he disciplines them hard. I remember watching this episode as a kid and not actually knowing what was going off. I didn't know how it would end. Starscream actually has a lot of opportunities to take down Megatron, but that's not what he wants in the end. He came to his final decision that he wanted peace in the universe. But Starscream knows that Megatron is more powerful than him, and him fighting against Unicron with Optimus Prime is the better option. And Starscream's final words are really the truest Starscream has ever spoken. He tells Megatron straight up how he feels. And Megatron is almost taken aback by it and tells Starscream to save his breath. And honestly, I don't think we'll ever get a scene like this in Transformers history anytime soon.
No.
Starscream's not trying to be cruel to Megatron in this scene, he's just openly telling him the truth, and it's something that Megatron's never heard before. And while I don't think Starscream is necessarily forgiving Megatron in this scene, he's just realised that his grudge against Megatron is just as pointless as Megatron's quest for power. And what follows this is perhaps one of the most badass moments in Transformers history.
Please, sir, do it for me.
Amazing.
No, Starscream, don't!
Wild.
It's time to finish this once and for all! Activate proton cannon! You're all mine, Unicron!
Just in
The
case
crack
it's
in the
lost
pen
on
there.
anyone, Starscream knew he was going to die. The only reason he charged an attack on Unicron was to show Megatron that he was real. He had no intention of surviving. That's why he ejected Swindle at the last minute to save him. Starscream knew that the only way to get through his thick skull that Unicron is a real threat was to sacrifice himself, by provoking Unicron to attack back. And honestly, it just hit really hard as a kid that his attack didn't even reach Unicron, not even a little bit. And the imagery we see, especially as a kid, is actually quite shocking. We see a character completely get
Dissolve,
disintegrated. Yes, this is how it happened in Generation 1, but I feel like this time it's a bit more graphic and brutal. And in the next shot, we see the pendant that Alexis has snap. That, once again, is kind of a symbolism of our hearts. And it was this noble sacrifice that made Megatron realize that Unicron, well, he's right there. He's disguised as the moon. And it was really interesting to see Megatron in the next episode mourn the loss of Starscream.
I can't believe Starscream did that.
Well, I'm not gonna cry for him because the traitor got what he deserved.
From now on, would you keep your mindless thoughts to yourself? Right now, all I can think about is the comrade we lost. Sure, he challenged my authority in a failed coup attempt, and even though Starscream was a traitor, he never lost sight of his oath to the Decepticons. He was a true soldier, unlike most of you!
I think Starscream's death definitely does mirror a lot of Dinobots, and I believe a lot of inspiration was drawn from that. But taking a character like Starscream, a core Transformers character, it's just staggering to have watched him fight for conquest, but then he fights for the future in the end, for peace. I believe he wasn't only trying to prove himself to Megatron, but also Optimus Prime as well, to show him that he had what it takes to be a hero. I mean, Jesus, you gotta think about it, Starscream was such a badass in this scene. Like damn, a hardcore Decepticon died as an Autobot. This is why Armada Starscream holds such a special place in my heart, because we see just a regular soldier grow into something much more. The anti-hero of the series. In the end, Starscream overcame his pettiness and his need to take over as leader of the Decepticons, and these traits have been kind of abandoned in new Starscreams. But I think Armada Starscream is a unique Starscream within himself. Starscream of course has returned to his roots in modern media of just being a treacherous Decepticon, but I'll always remember Armada. And when you think about it, this was the first real reboot of the Transformers, so this was the first real reboot of Starscream. And honestly, I think this Starscream had a much more lasting impact than Generation 1 Starscream. This is the Starscream that I still remember to this day, 20 years on. I know Armada doesn't exceed on a lot of things for many people, but when it comes to Starscream, I think they nailed it. Starscream lived the life as a cowardice Decepticon, but he died as a heroic Autobot. And that's why I'll always remember him.
I tried to gain favor from you, but nothing was ever good enough. No matter how many battles I fought, you always found fault. Then I saw how Optimus treated his men, and I realized he was a leader of integrity. Unlike you.
Good conclusion. I like it. I like that as a supporting argument.
And then Transformers Energon brought him back to life and ruined it.
Ha! There's no place left for you to run, Starscream.
What's happening? What?
So there we have it
Amazing.
guys, this has been my video on Transformers Armada's Starscream. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Did you grow up with this Starscream? And which moment is your personal favourite? I honestly didn't expect this video to be so long. I was only going to do like a 10 to 15 minute video, but the more I just kept talking about Starscream, the more I just stretched out all of his episodes throughout the series. And I just really wanted to impress you guys with this video because, well, Armada was my childhood. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the Optimus Prime and Megatron video I did exploring their dark dynamic. Of course, for more Transformers Armada videos, be sure to subscribe, click that notification bell to get all updates instantly. I hope you've enjoyed. Until the next video guys, this has been Comodin Cam, and goodbye.
I liked it. I thought it was really good. Thought it was a good video. I also like the way the conclusion was done with the supporting clip at the end, the speech, along with his conclusion. I think it was good. I mean, as somebody who doesn't really have experience with Transformers, like I've said, I mean, it was easy enough to follow along. Yeah, I mean, this... Wow, it seems like this series has been rebooted just again and again, and I don't know. That's an interesting one for me. I don't know, like just the vastly different art styles, the constant reboots. This is ignoring. My model's frozen. Oh, sorry, I try to sit back with some of these longer ones, but no, my model actually just crashed. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know why it just just an actual brick. Sorry. Words, brain. It was a good video. I liked it. I had a lot of fun with this, and it was really cool to just look at another piece of I'll call it legacy media, if you will. And honestly just have a great time with it. Is it something I'm necessarily going to pursue? Probably not. Just don't really have the interest, if that makes sense. But it was really cool to see why somebody liked the series and why so many people like it, and why people like it. So thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Definitely go check out the original channel, especially if you have not. Hopefully there was enough in this reaction that it satisfies people, it's transformative enough, and I'll see you in the next time with hopefully a not broken model.